Welcome back, everyone. Today we're taking a deep dive into something pretty central to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and that's service, helping others.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking at a talk by President Russell M. Nelson from back in October 2019 at General Conference. It's called The Second Great Commandment.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
It really gets to the heart of how Latter-day Saints try to put that principle, that love thy neighbor idea, into action.
And they do it in some pretty big ways, too. Think billions of dollars in aid around the world, plus just countless smaller acts of service.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. President Nelson really drives home the point that helping others is where real joy comes from.
So let's get into it. One thing that struck me is how President Nelson doesn't just frame this as like a suggestion. He makes it sound like it's fundamental to happiness. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think he's onto something there. It's like our own happiness is tied to how well the people around us are doing. Not that it's about self-sacrifice, but more like when you help others, you end up helping yourself too.
That's a good point. And President Nelson uses stories from his own experiences, really powerful stuff.
Oh yeah, like when he went to Christchurch, New Zealand, after those awful mosque shootings. I mean, sending condolences would have been easy enough, but he and Sister Nelson actually went there, offered comfort to the people directly.
And they did more than just offer comfort. They promised to help rebuild those mosques. Real interfaith cooperation.
Exactly. And then there's that story from Buenos Aires. He met people whose lives were completely changed just because Latter-day Saint Charities gave them wheelchairs.
I remember that one. It's not just about the wheelchair itself, it's that it gave them independence, right?
Yeah, dignity.
Mm.
Opened up all sorts of possibilities they didn't have before.
It really shows you how far these efforts reach. It got me thinking, this commitment to helping others, it works on such a huge scale, but also on this very personal level, too.
Right. And, there's a story that captures both of those sides. So for President Nelson's birthday, he gets a letter from this 14-year-old girl named Mary. She starts listing all the things they have in common. And one of them is that they both have 10 children.
Wait, 10 each? Wow.
Yep. And get this, she also says that they both love 2-hour church services.
Huh, I bet.
You can tell there's a shared dedication there, right?
Yeah.
But beyond the funny parts, it shows you how much service is part of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not just about the big showy things. It's about being there for people in the everyday moments.
Absolutely. Now, on that bigger scale, we got to talk about Latter-day Saint Charities. It's pretty wild how it all started with just one event back in 1984, a church-wide fast to help people dealing with a drought in East Africa.
Oh, yeah, I read about that. Just one day of fasting, and they raised over $6 million. It's amazing to think that sparked what Latter-day Saint Charities is today.
And they've done some serious good since then. Over $2 billion in aid worldwide.
$2 billion. And it's important to note, this aid goes to anyone who needs it, no matter what they believe, their nationality, race, sexual orientation, gender. Even their politics don't matter.
Right. It's about seeing the value in every person, regardless of those differences.
Helping those in need, that's what matters. And this idea of helping those in need, it's built right into how they practice the law of the fast, right?
Yeah. Can you explain that a bit? Some folks might not know about it.
Sure. Basically, once a month, members of the church go without food for a day.
Yeah.
And what they would spend on those meals, they donate it to help people in need. Often they give even more than that, a real act of putting others first.
President Nelson told this story from when he was in West Africa in 1986 that stuck with me. The saints there, their donations from fasting often added up to more than what their local community needed.
And so they sent that extra money to help people in other places who were struggling even more. Really going above and beyond, recognizing that we should care about people beyond just our own little circle,
It's a perfect example of that law of the fast in action. And it leads us to, how this aid actually works. We've talked about these global efforts, but there's also a lot of focus on helping the local community, right?
Oh, absolutely. One way they do that is with bishop storehouses. Think of them like grocery stores, specifically for people in need, right there in the community. They give out hundreds of thousands of food orders each year.
It's like a safety net built right into how the community works. And in places where they don't have an actual storehouse, the bishops and branch presidents use money from fast offerings to help people directly.
It's all about making sure anyone who needs help can get it right in their own area. But they don't stop there. The church also works on huge challenges, like world hunger and getting clean water to people.
Those are some really heavy issues. A UN report said over 820 million people around the world don't have enough to eat. That's a massive number, and the clean water problem is just as bad.
Yeah, it goes beyond just being thirsty, too. Clean water means preventing disease, keeping people healthy. It lets whole communities actually thrive.
And the church is doing something about it. They've helped get clean water to hundreds of communities in 76 different countries. There's this one project in a town called Luputa in the Democratic Republic of Congo. It's really inspiring.
Laputa, yeah. Over 100,000 people, and they had no running water at all. Can you imagine what that was like every day?
That's hard to even think about, having to go so far just to find water, and who knows if it was even safe.
So they find this mountain spring 18 miles away. But getting the water from the spring to the town, that was a huge task.
This is where you see people working together, right? Humanitarian missionaries, they trained the locals, gave them the supplies to build a pipeline from that mountain spring.
It's amazing what they accomplished when they had a shared goal.
And the people of Luputa, they didn't give up. It took them 3 years to dig this trench through rock and jungle just to lay that pipeline.
3 years. That's incredible.
But they did it. They brought clean water to their whole town. Talk about human resilience and the power of teamwork.
Totally. And that commitment to helping those in tough situations, it applies to refugees too, people who had to flee from all sorts of danger.
Right.
Just in 2018, the church gave emergency supplies to refugees in 56 countries.
And they don't just give stuff, they also encourage their members to volunteer, to help these refugees fit into their new communities. That's so important for making people feel like they belong.
Right. It's about seeing beyond the immediate crisis and helping people build a better life for themselves.
Now, speaking of building, I was really interested in Deseret Industries. They get millions of pounds of clothes donated every year.
Wow.
Some of it goes to help local church members who need it, but most of those clothes get donated to other charities to give out all over the world.
It's a great way to share resources and make those donations go even further, right? And they do more than clothes, too. Eye care, help for newborn babies, wheelchairs. They help thousands of people in so many ways.
Their reach is huge, and they never waver in their dedication to serving people in need. We can't forget their work in disaster relief either. When something terrible happens, the church is often one of the first ones there to help.
And what I find fascinating is they actually plan ahead for disasters. Church leaders and staff, they put together relief plans before anything even happens. They don't wait for a crisis. They're already thinking about what people will need and how to get it to them.
That's amazing. Just in 2018, they had over 100 disaster relief projects around the world, helping people after hurricanes, fires, floods, earthquakes, you name it.
You see those pictures of church members in their yellow helping hands vests? And you know they're there to help, to show compassion. It's all about ministering, that idea of caring for people like Christ did.
It's putting faith into action, right? Being there for others when they need it most. And all this service hasn't gone unnoticed. President Nelson mentioned how leaders from different countries have thanked the church for their humanitarian work and for how their members are such good influences in their communities.
It says a lot that some of those leaders even went to visit the first presidency and said they wished the church was established in their own countries.
That speaks volumes. They see that Latter-day Saints make families and communities stronger wherever they are.
It goes back to that core belief that God is our Father and we're all brothers and sisters. It's about realizing we're all connected and every person has worth, no matter their background or beliefs.
Such a powerful expression of our shared humanity. It really emphasizes what President Nelson was saying, that our greatest joy comes from helping others.
And I think that joy is even bigger when we go out of our way to help, even if it's not convenient, even if it makes us uncomfortable. That's when it becomes truly selfless,
And that's what makes us more than just people who believe in something. It makes us disciples, putting love into action. Living that second great commandment, it's not just about feeling good, it's about actually changing people's lives for the better.
And when we do that, we help others, but we also change ourselves for the better, too. It's a beautiful cycle.
It really is. We're all part of one big human family, connected by this desire to make the world a better place, to show compassion. And I love that this idea isn't just for people of one faith. It's something everyone can relate to. We can all find ways to bring more service into our lives.
Absolutely. President Nelson's message, it's a challenge to all of us. Even little acts of kindness can cause big positive changes. It's not about waiting for the perfect moment. It's about choosing to serve in those everyday moments.
It's about cultivating that spirit of service within ourselves and letting it guide how we act and how we treat each other. And that brings up an important question. How can we each put this principle into practice? What small act of kindness can we do today to make someone's day just a little bit brighter?
That's a great question to think about, yeah. We should all be asking it ourselves more often, I think. It's so easy to get caught up in our own busy lives. But like President Nelson saying, service doesn't have to be this huge thing or take tons of time.
Right. It's not about waiting for the right moment to come along. It's about taking those little opportunities every day to help out.
Exactly. Like, it could be as small as giving someone a real compliment or helping your neighbor with their yard or even just listening to someone who needs to talk.
Oh, that's so true about listening. Just being there for someone, really paying attention to them. Sometimes that's the best way to serve.
Absolutely. It's like a gift, especially these days when everyone's so busy and rushing around.
President Nelson really emphasizes how much joy comes from those selfless acts, too. It's not about getting thanked or anything. It's that feeling of knowing you made a difference for someone.
It's funny, right? The more you give, the more you get back. It's a truth you see in so many cultures and religions, I think.
It makes sense, though. Deep down, we all want to connect with each other, to feel like we're part of something bigger, to do some good in the world. And it's amazing how important service is in the whole culture of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
It's everywhere in their teachings, what they do, how they live. It's pretty inspiring to see.
It is. From those global humanitarian projects we talked about, all the way down to those everyday kindnesses that nobody else might even notice, but they mean the world to that one person.
Right. It's like they're building a whole culture of helping, where it's just natural to want to serve others.
It makes you think, we spend so much time worrying about these big problems in the world, and they can feel overwhelming. But President Nelson's point is that change starts with each of us, with every act of kindness, every time we choose to serve.
I like that. Instead of looking at everything that's wrong, we start asking, what can I do to make things better? Right here, right now.
And it doesn't have to be this big production. Sometimes the most meaningful things are the smallest things. Holding a door for someone, saying something encouraging, even just smiling at a stranger.
It's true. Those little things, they add up. They make people feel connected. They make their day better. And they remind us that we're all in this together.
I think that feeling of being connected, that's really at the heart of what President Nelson's saying. We're all part of this one big human family. And how happy we are, it's tied to how well everyone else is doing.
It's a beautiful idea, and I really think it could change things, not just for individuals, but for whole communities, even the world, if we really took it to heart.
I agree. It speaks to something really deep inside us, that need to love and be loved, to give and receive, to make the world a better place.
It's a good reminder that we all have the power to make a difference, and even the smallest acts of kindness can have a huge impact.
So to wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's all try to find more opportunities to serve, to be more aware of what people around us need, and to remember that amazing truth. Helping others brings us true joy. It's interesting, President Nelson doesn't just talk about service like it's something we have to do. He makes it sound like, well, like the way to find real happiness.
Right, like it's not about forcing yourself to do good things just because it's the right thing, but more about finding that feeling of satisfaction you get from helping others.
It's like that saying, you find yourself by losing yourself in the service of others. When we're not thinking about ourselves so much, that's when we figure out what really matters.
Yeah. And it's not just about what we do for other people, it changes us too. We become more empathetic, more compassionate, more grateful. Those are pretty amazing qualities to develop.
I think this idea of service resonates with us so much because it's kind of built into us.
Mm.
We want to connect with people, be part of a community, make a difference. It's how we're wired.
It is. And when we ignore that, when we only focus on what we want, well, we're missing out on a deeper level of happiness, I think.
President Nelson's almost reminding us of who we really are deep down and how to be our best selves.
I like that. And that message is for everyone. No matter what you believe or where you come from, it's like a universal invitation to help others and see how much joy it brings.
And in this deep dive, we've seen a great example of that in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
For sure. It's inspiring how they put that principle into action on such a big scale all over the world.
Thinking about those billion-dollar humanitarian programs and then also all those smaller acts of service by so many members, they really show what loving thy neighbor looks like.
It reminds us that you don't need to be rich or powerful to serve. What matters is being willing to open your heart, see the needs around you, and then act with compassion and generosity.
So as we finish up our deep dive into the power of service, let's all take this message with us. Let's challenge ourselves to find those ways we can make a difference, whether it's something big or just a small act of kindness.
Let's remember that real joy comes from helping others, and when we lift others up, we lift ourselves up too.
And with that, we'll leave you with that question we talked about earlier. What little act of kindness can you do today to make someone's day a bit brighter? Keep looking for those opportunities to serve and see for yourself just how powerful it can be. Until next time, everyone.